Call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Any changes to the agenda? Nope. Call for motion to adopt agenda.
So move.
Second.
Who was that? Dennis and
Herder made the motion, I believe, and Mr. Dorsey seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, Mayor Mark is an aye.
John, I believe, did you vote?
Aye.
Steve Grote,
Aye.
motion carried unanimous. Anything public input other than what's on the menu? Okay, next item, Mr. Ben and his wastewater treatment plant updates.
Good afternoon. Cheers. So does anybody have any questions on the write-up I had at all? So basically this month, we're going to be concentrating on cleaning out the digesters and inspecting them to make sure there's no defects in the coating that was reapplied last year. The DNR did put our permit out for 30-day public comment. So once that is complete, they're gonna let us know if anybody had any objections to it or if anything needs to be changed. And then we will get our new permit. Judy, Chad, Robert, and I have been working on the 2023 budget. And then hopefully soon we can get everything off to the auditors so they can crunch the numbers and be ready for budget season. We had Speedy Clean lining some deteriorated pipes in town that they're roughly 70% finished. Hopefully by the middle of June, they'll be done. So the big thing for you guys tonight is the CMAR for 2021. I have that attached in the packet. Does anybody have any questions regarding anything on the CMAR?
is there any changes you want to point out from the previous years?
There really isn't any. We're going to see some major changes once we get the new permit because we are going to have ammonia limits. We're going to have to do some more testing for other things that the DNR feels is detrimental to the river. So pretty much like last year, we got an A in every category. The only thing, like I say all the time, is we need to look for our clear water infiltration because that is our biggest issue right now. The more water we get, the more it costs to treat everything. So if nobody has any questions, I believe the board has to vote on accepting the CMAR so that it can go to council for a resolution.
Call for motion to accept the CMAR.
I make that motion.
Dorsey. And
Second.
Mr. Ritchie, second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Steve Grote,
Aye.
your Mark,
Aye,
John Hass. John Hass,
Aye.
motion carried unanimous. I have one question for you before we completely leave. You said something about people bringing like their trailers and dumping. Are they paying for that?
Yes, $10 per load. And one thing we're going to go over when we do the tour and I kind of had it in our write-up because I was going to go to that next. Just do some highlights before we go on the tour. It is getting beat up. It is almost 40 years old. There are some safety issues that I'm concerned about, especially with the elderly people that come to dump. But we'll go over that more. But yes, we do charge $10 per dump.
I just, when I was reading, I noticed it. Any other questions, Ben? Okay, the next thing I see is discussion on a request for the property of 307 North Water Street. to Utilize the downtown central trash collection. Want to read yours or?
Well, I can go over more down there if you desire.
Let's do that. Just do it
Okay.
down there.
So if everybody can come in through the Werner Allen gate, because that's open for dumping of compost, where the other gate is shut. Thank you.
Okay. Chad?
Yep. So we were approached by the property owner at 307 North Water Street, Brandon, and I'm gonna slaughter your last name probably. It's Roshan. What was it? Rogenbauer. Okay. Brandon, why don't you come up next to Robert there? So like we had in your packet, Brandon owns the property at 307 North Water Street. You can kind of see in the map, it's right here. It's next to the movie theater, and I believe the Union's next to it, and then PC and Cell Solutions is just to the east of that. So this is the property they own. And correct me if I have anything wrong at this point. But since their property pretty much borders, or their building borders the property line, there is no room for garbage collection containers. So they are requesting to use the central containers that were developed for the downtown properties along the river or south of North Water Street in between Taft Park and St. John's Park. And that was that effort to clean up the dumpsters that were in the back alley. So that was the request brought to the city. And Brandon, do you want to kind of explain your case from there?
Yeah, we recently took that property over last September, and we didn't have very many tenants to begin with, so it wasn't an issue until recently. We got all 3 units filled, and they started accumulating more than what your standard roll-off little house dumpster could handle. So we wanted to get something bigger, and we just didn't have the room for it. And we have an easement with PC Solutions, but they didn't want us putting a big dumpster back there because they have customers coming and going from there. So we were hoping that this would be a solution that we could figure out. I know that the bill's kind of split through all the property owners on the other side, and we'd be more than willing to share in that cost.
Has there been any dialogue with the theater, maybe teaming up with the theater to their
The
dumpsters?
I reached out to them as well. They have issues of their own, that they are having enough problems with their own dumpsters. Apparently, some other people are filling it up, and he's complaining about having to pick garbage up out of his parking lot every day. So we didn't want to add to that any more than he already has an issue with.
We're gonna be redesigning the downtown area parking when the First State Bank does their thing. Is there any possibility of putting in a central dumping station for the buildings on the other side of the street in the parking area?
We haven't talked about it. But it doesn't mean
Makes
it's not
sense.
an
If we
option.
do one side, makes sense. If they're paying for it, it makes sense to do something on the other side.
It would clean up the backside of their buildings, just like the backsides of the downtown on the other side of the street.
And then businesses are paying for that central dumpster, correct?
So what the setup is, my understanding is that the city just put basically the site and the fencing. And the Gratian or GFL is still charging every single property on the south side as if they were having their own single collection, but it's massed and thrown into the central collection. So I mean, Tim, that kind of.
I pay $38 a month. I don't know what the other businesses pay, but
Yep. So we stay out of the billing. We stay out of that totally. We just have basically a site for a dumpster to be. And granted, we get the complaints, so I know over on the other side, when there's in St. John's Park, when there was grease problems, we had to deal with that. So unfortunately, we're having to deal with the complaints. But the billing and stuff, we stay out of. That's directly through GFL.
What's there behind where Ladders is?
Parking.
I know there's parking there, but is there any dumpsters back there?
Not any city, it'd be all privately
Oh,
if
it's all
there is.
private.
I don't even know if he's got room back there. I should have had this ready to go.
I'm right here right now. If you guys want to take a look,
It's
try to. I don't know how to turn it around.
My concern,
That's what's there. And that's what's over there.
There's nothing
No,
back
no
there.
room.
That one there is for PC Solutions, that one?
That one there is, yeah, it's right behind the theater.
Yep, those are the theater ones that mentioned earlier.
Those are the theater ones. Okay.
Yeah, so PC and sell his property. I hate it this way. Yep, so he's got like a little L and it goes behind the Union and then up to Brandon's property. And then the theater has 2 parcel parking lot beyond that. So that dumpster that the mayor was showing, I'm guessing is right about there.
Correct.
And this is city owned at this point in time. So, you know, when we look at developing that, I mean, is that something that we can talk about incorporating? You know, that's something we could look at. But that's not gonna be for another year,
Right.
Yeah.
at least another year. Yep.
my concern is, I know we're going to hear a lot of static from the veterans. We already do. It was set up mainly for the people that had dumpsters in the alley. We start one, how many more will we have running across the street? And is that dumpster? I've heard people complain that it's over full now.
there's also the liability of transporting trash across a busy street.
I just drove by the dumpster that you're talking about right now, and it is open and full.
What was that, Mark? You were kind of quiet there.
I just drove past that dumpster that you guys are talking about at Taft Park, and it is open and full right now.
I guess that also would be my concern is hauling that garbage across 2 lanes of traffic, you know, down the block a little bit. I'll make sure that's not a liability.
I'm concerned about every other apartment on the other side of the road wanting this. I think
Fill it up too, you know.
best bet would be to try to work something out with the theater until we get the reconstruction plans for Water Street or North Main Street.
Either talk to Computer Solutions and see if he'd let you set a dumpster on his property.
And he doesn't want it.
I've already talked to him. He's against that.
This- And I agree with that. We should have something on the other side of the street, which would, as long as it's not costing the city money and businesses still pay for garbage pickup, it would help to have central garbage. That way your downtown supposedly should look better because people have somewhere to go with their stuff. I agree with Tim that we do it on one side of the street, the other side, while we can. We should be doing it for the other side also, because that is still downtown. But I don't know about allowing one to do it. I just don't know how many more would want. I don't even know how many apartments are above them buildings.
For us, we just have 2 commercial and then 1 residential. So the
Give me a
commercials,
second, I can tell you. Well, on the 300 block, there are 3. On the 200 block, there are 2. On the 100 block, you're going to have 10.
What about there were True Value was, if there used to be one, a dumpster right back there, if there,
Behind the building.
yeah, is it possible to have one set in there?
Privately owned, that would have to be something that they work out together as a private property owner.
I haven't reached out to them yet. I do notice that they do have a dumpster a little ways down there. I could reach out and see if that would be a solution. Another thing is on my way here, I knew that you guys own the city owned the lot. I think that's 210 right there. Yeah, I think that was city owned.
Yep.
Would we maybe be able to rent out a couple of the spots there and have a dumpster there on our own until we have this remodel that comes up or another solution is found?
I forgot about the 209 St. John's Apartments. That's another 7.
I was gonna say,
Block.
when you said 200 block, I'm like,
Yeah,
I think
no,
that one
I-
is a full
I was-
apartment.
Yeah, West North Water Street. There's another 7 apartments at 209, which would give direct access to that 210.
I'd be interested in that idea about renting that space out, because that would also give us future thoughts to see who's interested in having a central spot there.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of makes sense for us.
The only thing I'd be concerned about is that, I mean, parking is limited.
Mhm.
Who else is gonna come up and want to rent a spot from us? And if you say it's okay for one, is it okay for the next, and the next?
Well, and that's-
Well, we could explain that we're doing this on a trial basis,
Yep.
so that when we reconstruct Main Street, we know if it makes sense to have
Exactly.
we're not renting it to them for life. It's to trial this, and I
Right.
think you could get away with it pretty easily, actually.
And if there's people that want to jump into this as we go, we take that on case by case basis as well.
One thing we're looking at just for the other 2 sites, we really need to put cameras, at these 2 sites, because every once in a while we'll have issues. Like over here, we had the issue of grease getting spilt everywhere.
Yeah.
And we started talking to the downtown business owners and everybody was doing this, so whatever we do, we're not supposed to be policing this, but we end up policing it. So, I mean, cameras are gonna be something that we're gonna want to talk about here, and then if we do anything back here, for sure. Yeah,
And as far as the concern about other people coming into it, if they want to down the road or someone approaches you, we're more than willing to share the cost and share the dumpsters at that point then. If we put an 8-yard dumpster there, I doubt that our businesses would fill that up every week if we got a weekly pickup. So we'd be more than happy to share.
There's actually quite a few people down there, like you said. I mean, it might be
I think it'd be a good idea. I think the owner of, I can't read the number, but that more of the-
210.
No, the one next to it, that one there,
209.
you would probably want to jump on that too. I think having central location would be a good idea, and I think this is a good way to try it out, see
I agree.
how it works. And
well, we could just talk to Gracia or GFL and see, because we would stay out of the building. We don't want to get involved in any of that. So we'll just see if they, are interested in managing that as well, If there's a spot that to lease or rent or however you guys want to.
so I'm assuming that where that white car is that, no, the other side. Is that 3 spots in or 2 spots in? That's at an angle, so you gotta,
3 in.
so you could, with that angle on there, you could probably only lose 2.
Is
Right.
that,
Depends on whether or not they could pick it up.
Oh, they got to get in there.
is that the city parking lot that we have trouble with overnight parking?
Yeah, I can't remember. There's some.
We
there's
put a
some
sign out there.
Signage in there. I can't remember what we did. I think for sure we put signage here for
Yeah.
preventing it.
We,
One side is and one side isn't.
right, the north side is allowed overnight park.
Or something about 24-hour, no more than 24-hour or something. And then these ones are so many hours or something,
Hours, I think.
something like
3.
that. I'd have to look back at the ordinance.
I guess a couple things we'd have to find out is whether or not GL can get in there, where they can get in.
Well, I think we can authorize staff to figure that out if that's the direction you want to go.
To me, this should be more on the people that want it rather than the city providing it. I mean,
We're not providing anything. They're gonna pay for it. We're actually just providing a spot for them to put it for now on city property to test run whether a central located dumpster on that side would be beneficial to the city to keep everything clean. So that all we are actually providing is a spot. We're not putting any money into it, nothing. That is on the landowners.
And who
A little
knows?
staff time to figure out where the best spot is to put it, but
There may be a huge problem back there with garbage. We don't know. Maybe this is gonna clean up something.
And it
No,
could
as
be
as a
really,
trial
really,
basis.
Really big headache, and we don't want to deal with it later. You know, it could go either way.
Before, and then we can design it into our reconstruction.
Do we know what kind of shape that parking lot's in?
or
I just know if you plan to extend this for a year or whatever, the weight of the truck itself will start making ruts. And if those ruts continue, it'll lead to more problems. That's the only issue I could see with having it in there. If it's in poor shape already, all depends on what you plan on doing with it down the road. That would be the only issue from my aspect or point of view of pulling a weighted truck, and they can get quite heavy. Cause you're looking at like a front load dumpster and overhead.
Yep,
Correct.
yep. I also know that worst case, they do have 2-yard roll-off ones that they have available to where they could roll it off to the street and then pick it up. I'm not sure if that would be an option or if that would solve part of that problem.
I'm kind of hoping that we try this and the theater gets involved too, so that we don't have 2 dumpsters just sitting out in the middle of a corner on a street. Well, I understand why they have them out there because they're dumpsters, but it kind of looks odd when you turn that corner and there's just 2 dumpsters sitting in the middle of a corner. That might help clean it up too. All the businesses won't have to have dumpsters.
This is
That's
totally,
actually-
totally far fetched, but is there a way to buy a little part of his parking lot and tell him we're putting a dumpster pad in the corner where he already has? You know what I mean? Like approach the theater and say, hey, sell it to us for $1 or whatever, your little area, because, you know, and put a central dumping station in that corner where his dumpster already is. And then everyone's gonna split the cost with you. It's gonna be, we'll have it enclosed with a lock, just like the other ones. So there's security.
I think that'd be a good idea once we start doing the reconstruction
And then you,
I like that. I like that
and
idea.
approach them. Because yeah, it is kind of a little dead area for him anyway.
because I'm sure he has issues with people dumping in the dumpsters right in the middle of anywhere. So if it was more secure, maybe he'd be interested in, or I don't know.
Treat it just like the one across the street.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I know that he does have those issues. That's was one of his reasons for not wanting to split the cost or add an additional service to it, because he already had problems with people coming in and doing whatever they kind of pleased with it.
Maybe instead of putting it in a parking lot, you could contact him and ask him if we could put it there. Cause we want to try something.
What is the, what do we inquire for cost for the Taft Park dumpster? Do we have maintenance
For the
fees? or-
pads?
Yeah.
The construction, I mean, it was, and there are,
Well, I meant, what do we yearly, do we have any yearly cost going forward after, now that it's there?
snow removal. So we go in there and clean out snow when there's so many inches. And then we kind of try to pull them out a little bit and clean out with snow. I know we had to come in this one over by St. John's Park a couple times to clean out all the grease, which was a pain in the butt. When they were designed, there's actually a sanitary sewer grate in there that can be pulled off, and then you can clean the grate, like the grease and anything debris, can do that. So that was a major cost, because there was a sanitary sewer lateral that ran on both of these all the way to the street and tapped into the street. So it was, the pad, the fencing, and the sanitary sewer line that ran through there. Other than just dealing with any complaints or snow removal, and if it needs cleaning and we can't find out who made the mess, then we have to clean it up. We end up cleaning it up.
That parking lot we're looking at is cleaned by John Rao, isn't it?
Yeah, but they don't get out of the truck and clean, around.
Yeah,
in the
no, I mean,
dumpsters.
as far as snow removal.
Yep. Sometimes John, sometimes us, depending on who's in there and timing wise.
I mean, at the end of the day, the garbage responsibility is not on the city. However, we want to work with everybody and we want to make it pleasable to be here. So I mean, it's really on us on how we can help the residents and businesses down there.
Well, why don't we start? We'll contact GFL and see if they're interested in a similar situation like across the street. And then we can talk about if you guys want to stage it in one of these corners as a trial. We could do that. And then the other question, are you gonna go in the next step? Because down here, there's actually an ordinance preventing anyone for having a dumpster in this area. Are you gonna do that same thing here and put it in the ordinance to make it illegal to have a dumpster in here? That's the other step to consider.
That might
I
prompt.
would
the
say
guy at
after
the
the
theater.
trial, yes. I would, if this works out good and we have the proof on the bottom, on the other side of Main Street, how well it works. I would say, yeah, because what does Tim care if he has his own personal dumpster right next to him, or if he's got to carry it a little ways, he's still paying the same price.
And it seems to work out on the other
Probably
side of the
less.
street.
Yeah, he's probably paying less than if he'd have a dumpster. I gotta believe them are more than $38 a month to have a
And I
dumpster
like,
yourself.
I like your guys' idea too, over by the theater to see if we can work something out over there. I don't know how that would turn out, but man, I don't,
Won't hurt to ask them if we could set it there and we're trying something, and it'll save them all money. Anyone that has a dumpster there, it's gonna save them money.
It may prompt him to be a little more cooperative too.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would say, talk to the theater. Tell him what you're gonna do, the reconstruction and stuff, and that might, prompt him to say, sure. Whereas him contacting himself didn't really tweak him, but it might, if we do it, I think that's a good idea. I think Tim said about contacting the theater.
Well, and if they are on board with it, that's gonna save some city parking, which is always an issue.
Mhm.
So if we can keep it over on the theater property where they don't let people park, and it's generally always empty. So if we can utilize that space, that's also saving city parking space.
so in a nutshell, to help this gentleman out, are we looking at allowing, like a push dumpster, like he said, in the time being as we pursue other avenues? What approach do you guys want to do to answer his question here today?
I guess what I would like to do is get a little more information from GFL and contact the theater and bring this back. I mean, until we know all the details, I don't think we can make a decent decision.
I think if he wants to get a small push dumpster and put it in that corner, we allow him to do that. Well, we figure out where the best place is. to
Because he's
stick
got
a
the
bigger
problem now,
dumpster.
not tomorrow.
That's,
Yeah,
that's what
so
I was getting
I
at.
think
Can't wait another month.
it's only gonna be a short time that he's allowed to use them spots. You guys can work out the financial details of that, but I would say yes, let them use the spots, put one of them smaller push dumpsters in there until we find a better spot, or if that is the spot, then we contact the other businesses and they want to start something like that, going forward. Let's
us
not
in the
hurt
loop.
him while we're working out the details.
Right.
That's what I was getting at.
Are you letting them or leasing stalls? In the time being?
Let him use it. You're
Letting him.
Yeah, because the people that rent those apartments are parking in city parking lot. Do they pay?
No, I'm just saying, I'm asking the question. What do you guys want to do?
Let him
Where's-
use it.
Where's the liability factor on either or?
I don't know if there's liability. It's just a matter as someone else gonna ask for a different favor.
Well,
Well,
I
I-
just think this is for a trial.
I think this would be a strict, this is something that we want to try to help everybody
Yeah.
in this, the trial. And that's where, I mean, my request would be to keep us in the loop and let's stay on top of it with each other. So we have an understanding for the future and make it better for everybody. So I mean, like Chad said, we still need to know if we're leasing it or just letting them use it. So
We might want to ask for, since
I
it's
make a
not
motion
ours.
to let him use this spot
second.
for free.
I would say maybe we want to just be covered by liability insurance on their liability insurance, because it's not our deal. And if someone gets hurt on it, it's not our deal. I mean, we can always ask to become an additional insured on that policy. We've done that for a lot of other things.
Yeah,
So-
baseball does it, so I mean, everybody does that
Yep.
additional
So I-
insurance, so.
Whoever's doing other activities in city city property, a lot of times we ask for to be covered under their insurance as additional insured.
So we have
Are we
a
gonna-
Understand how
motion.
that works? You just gotta call your
Yeah,
insurance.
we call insurance
Yep.
and tell them that we needed the liability for this dumpster.
We've got a motion and a second.
You had a motion, who seconded?
For,
Allowing the,
allowing him
Allowing
to
the
use-
use of that spot by the city. With the required liability insurance on it.
Do you have a time frame in it?
Well, if he gets us liability tomorrow, he can put dumpster under Wednesday.
Yeah, but are we gonna do a
For how
time
long?
frame? Say
Oh,
90 days. 90-day trial while
Guess
we're
that's-
working the rest of the
that's-
stuff out.
I would do it until we work the rest of the stuff out.
Yeah.
I mean, don't say after 90 days he can't do it anymore, but I mean, I would say until we work our bugs out of where we want the dumpster to be,
That's what I'm
it's
asking.
temporary.
We put a time limit on it, then we need to get our stuff done.
I would not put a time limit on it. I would just put it until we get a central located dumpster.
Because we might not do anything until the construction either next year or the year after. So I mean, I have no idea when that timeline's going to be quite yet.
Okay.
And I'd hate for it to be done after 90 days and it's our fault it's done because we're not ready yet.
do we have a motion and a second?
Who made the second?
Herder?
Dennis.
Okay, I didn't, I heard Mr. Ritchie make the motion. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
I,
Got them both.
I'm opposed. John? John Hess, did I hear your vote?
I,
Mr. Groot,
Aye. Again.
motion carried.
And Mike, you were opposed? Okay,
I'm opposed also.
okay. Two opposed? Kind of went through quick.
All right, moving on. Review bid tab and consider award a contract for storm ditch reconstruction at Interpipe. And what was the cost of that?
All right, so I'll take that. We had a bid opening for the Interpipe Storm Ditch Project. We had 4 contractors. Racky Construction was the low bid. The bids came in anywhere from 58,770 and 34 pennies to 118,804 and 82 cents. Racky contractors by far had the lowest bid. After reviewing the bid, McMahon confirmed that all their ducks in a row. So at this point in time, we're recommending to award that contract to Radke Contractors. I will point out, some of these costs are actually going to be reimbursed to us from Interpipe. So we are managing the ditch reconstruction because it's eroding, and we're going to be putting in some EMAT and some other things to help it not erode in the future. But they're partnering with us to add a culvert, which in their easement agreement, they can add culverts and or bridges over the top of it for access back and forth. So I'll kind of bring up their property right now to kind of show that. So here's the Interpipe right here. Here's the drainage ditch that is going to be rehabbed. They have a small pedestrian bridge right here in between their 2 buildings. The plan is to actually put a culvert in here instead and then just gravel it, similar to a culvert they have over here. And that's to help them get access back and forth. The original bid from McMahon came out with a 40-foot culvert that in the engineer's eyes, that gave them options for, initially having a smaller pedestrian walkway, but then giving them the opportunity in the future to make it a little bit more of a drivable width. And the reason being, if they do it now, we had to do DNR permits for this. So it would be under DNR permit to place a 40-foot culvert. And then they would have the option just to widen the walkway across it if they want to make it a driveway access. After the bids came through, they're considering maybe instead of doing the 40-foot culvert, maybe doing half of that. So this price might change as a change order in the future, but that'll all be on Interpipe. So the bonding, the ditching, and a lot of other stuff will be on our end, but the culvert, the walkway, and the riprap in front of the culverts, some of the riprap in front of the culverts would be on their dime, reimbursable to the city. We're worrying about the drainage ditch, and then also there's the slurry work under Industrial Loop Road. You guys might recall that we identified in our staff notes, we identified that there's a culvert that goes underneath Industrial Loop Road. And some of the water is actually compromising and going underneath and alongside the culvert instead of through the culvert, which is compromising that area. So we want to, they'll be pushing a slurry fill underneath there to prevent any of that water getting underneath and compromising that culvert. So again, low bid, very good bid. We were thinking that the bids were going to be more in this, over $100,000 mark. So that was a really good bid to see that. Plus, like I said, some of this is going to be reimbursed by Interpipe, and our cost is being financed by the TID that we have in the area. So good news in that aspect as well. So just looking for
I'll make a motion to accept Radke's bid for redoing that drainage ditch.
Second.
Motion by Richie, second by Dorsey. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Steve Groot,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
all opposed? Motion carried unanimous. The next item is consider street light installation on Southland Lane Extension. Mr. Robert.
Yes, Jay came up with two different designs, a 4 and a 5 light plan. Is my recommendation that we would go with a 4 light plan, kind of modified. There's the 5 light plan. If you go to the existing street and the street lights that are already on it, with the spacing, if we put 5 lights on that section, it would it'd be overkill in my opinion. And with the 4 light plan, adjusting the light spacing a little more towards the corner that will be in that subdivision will give you, you already have a street light that pretty much lights that intersection. So our main concern, where I put the yellow dots, it provides more light on that corner and gives you better spacing. So I'd recommend going with where those new yellow dots are on a 4 light plan. There's no upfront cost to these lights. We just pay a monthly fee, like was stated in your packet for lighting.
You say there's no cost. Who pays for the,
Utility pays for the installation of them, and what they do, what I'm guessing they do, I don't know for sure because I'm kind of new in this, but with our monthly fees that we pay, they allocate X amount for future expansion and use that money to erect these new lights that we pay monthly for. Is that correct, Chad?
You're basically leasing the light from the start. Consider it a lease. You're paying for the light, you know, the asset plus the electricity for that at that $6.45 per month in perpetuity. And that does creep up, you know, as electric costs go up as well. But yeah, they don't, well, next, take that back. $6.45 per month plus the kilowatt charge. So the $6.45 per month is the lease cost for that. And if it needs to be replaced, they just replace one and we just keep on paying.
The facility charge,
Pretty much.
but all it is. The facility charge. You put the one out on the corner of Aston House Road, that's the same situation. You didn't pay anything for that. You just got to pay the facility charge.
Make a motion to go with the 4 light.
I'll second.
motion made by Dorsey, second by Richie. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. John.
Done. We're good.
Got both of them.
Voted?
Yep.
Anybody voting nay? Motion carried unanimous. The next item is Chad again. Authorize the Director of Public Works to change orders and the total collective amount of up to 50,000 for Avon, Lima, and Lion Street reconstruction.
Yep. So in my packet, in the memo I talked about in the past, we've pre-authorized some change orders to allow projects to continue in a timely manner. Right now, the construction costs for the 3 street projects, Avon, Lima, and Lions, is estimated at 1.4 million. We typically budget 10% for contingencies, so that would be about 145,000 right now in our contingency budget for the project. I see no need why we need to go that high. We usually don't. So I think we usually start around a little under half if needed, for a pre-authorization to do change orders. This is so if they come uncover something underground, say a sanitary sewer, we find that something bad. You never know what you're gonna find until you dig it up, and there's usually always something that surprises us. So this would allow us to pre-authorize, change orders that we can justify to keep the project going instead of trying to call a last minute special meeting and put the project on hold. So
I'll call for a motion.
So move.
Berger and Richie,
I'll second it. Dennis,
all in favor, signify by saying
I
aye.
got one question on that.
Okay.
They do dig something up and it costs more than that 50,000. Where do we sit then?
then we're gonna meet. I mean, then, usually it's small stuff to just keep going. If it's something that's gonna be major, we need to sit down and discuss that then. So that time we'll call a special meeting and
Okay.
talk about it.
Because down there, you don't know what you're gonna find.
Exactly. Hopefully it's little stuff if that.
Nothing. Nothing.
Nothing, yeah, right. You can find nothing, right.
Could be there.
Unless you want to up that dollar amount, but I think this is fine to at least keep the small stuff going. And then if
I
it's gonna
trust
be
you.
major, then we'll sit down and meet, discuss it.
I'll trust you this time.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
John
Aye.
Half,
Aye.
Aye.
Rote, Mayor,
Yep.
motion carried unanimous. Director's report, Chad.
The only thing I'll point out right now is our years of service. We've got Ted Christian, 7 years of service on May 11th. He's our facility superintendent. And then Dawn Reinhardt, facility custodian, completed 9 years of service on May 21st. And then we've just been, I think Robert's just kind of getting thrown in the fire right now this time of year. Projects are just getting going. We've had meetings left and right, just keeping things going. We got a pre-construction meeting for Avon Lyons and Lima Street projects tomorrow. We've been meeting with Randy Retzloff and his project over there. We still got to finalize the plat for the single family development. So we were talking about that. And then, like I said in here, I'm happy to report that Robert seems to be catching on pretty quick and is showing some great motivation in the duty. So hopefully we continue that and continue to move forward. So
Thank you.
just wanted to point that out. That's all I got.
Future items. Wastewater treatment plant wages and expense for,
Yeah, with that, we are scrambling to get everything figured out to a point to give it to the consultants for doing the rate study that they need to do. We've been talking about internally getting the information and the timeline to get everything, so we're hitting our budget process correctly. We're to the point now, Ben's done some initial research on wages. He's done some good research on projects that we need to look at, plugging in our expenses for the next several years so that they can come up with a rate study to pay for these potential expenses. But one thing we really need to talk about is wages, and then also some of these bigger projects. So we don't think we can wait till the next Board of Public Works meeting to have that information. Ben just got some information late last week on the wages, but we might want to do a special Board of Public Works meeting in the next 2 weeks to really just focus and talk about the treatment plant budget and the wages for that we can give that information. And that doesn't lock us in per se to the budget, but that gives the consultants information to run with developing a plan for the rate study. So we're talking about, we probably want to do a special meeting. Unfortunately, I know we've been doing a lot of special meetings lately, but this time of year, we got a lot of things, irons and fire. But we wouldn't want to do that to kind of give them the information for the rate study. So we're thinking maybe 2 weeks now to do that.
Is that something that we invite Judy to as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if we want to try to do something right before the council meeting on the 21st. If we want to kind of designate, good 45 minutes, maybe at 6 o'clock. You guys are already coming that night. I hate bringing you guys back in for, just, it's nice to piggyback off of something.
Do it the same night as the council meeting.
Mhm.
That can work. Okay. We'll get more information. We'll try to give you some stuff in advance. But like I said, Ben's been doing some research on wages and stuff like that. Yeah, we're pretty behind on some of the wages that are out there. Even our staff is several dollars per hour behind Clintonville right now. So, which is kind of surprising. So, but yeah, we'll look at maybe doing something right before the council meeting on the 21st and kind of go from there.
What time would you start the meeting?
I'm guessing 6 o'clock. If we focus it, try to do a 6 o'clock, give it a good 45 minutes.
That conflicting with anybody here?
And then we did not put it back on the schedule, but just large item disposal services, we want to bring that back. Talk about those options. We don't want to forget that. We'll just put it back on the agenda for make sure we don't forget to do that.
I think we were waiting for, how are we gonna pay for it? Was Judy gonna bring some kind of proposal or something to?
I think we were gonna wait and get some more information from GFL, and then just come up with a proposal, some options. I mean, do we want to, charge the residents totally, for it and just provide it as a service? It's not something I'm gonna recommend that we just throw in our current budget to absorb, obviously, but, seeing what, piggybacking off of what other communities have been doing and just having them charge a fee and having the drop-off service. And that first year might be, if we do it, that first year might be a good indication if, like they were talking about some of the metal recycling, they're bringing in revenue for it. So even that first year, whatever dollar amount you charge, the first year you have an indication how much you're bringing in revenue. Maybe change that second year. Or year, so.
I think we need a hard discussion on that, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, nothing.
Can you guys hear me? Chad, one thing that I've noticed is that the intersection of Shawano and Wolf River Avenue, would like to say where the Saputo and Bottle Shop is.
Mhm.
There's that manhole middle intersection that's down a good, I would say close to 2 inches.
Okay.
Is that something, Robert? We have them 1.5 inch metal riser rings that we can obtain through Nina Foundry. Is that something we could look at just to, that's kind of a big drop there. I think that'd be an easy fix.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I'll look into.
Thank you. That's all I got.
Okay, with nothing, I call to recess the meeting and head to the sewage plant.
Before you call that vote, do we have a quorum going to the treatment plant? If we don't have a quorum, you can adjourn here and then the non-quorum can go. But if we have a quorum going, then we got to recess and then reconvene there. So show of hands, who's all going? Okay, then we got to have a quorum. So I didn't know if 3 people were going and then it wouldn't pay to, reconvene, but. So, Mike, make a motion in a second to recess.
I move to
I make a
recess.
motion to recess.
Darcy,
Second.
Richie,
Yep.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 That was John. That was Steve. Yep.
All opposed, motion carried. We'll head to the sewage.
Okay, for those on YouTube, the Board of Public Works is taking a tour of the wastewater treatment plant. There's going to be no action or motion